This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, compulsively punchable.
He's the kind of guy who you'd probably just punch on the arm really hard if you ever met him.
Worshipped by feminists.
He pokes fun at feminism and women, just joking around, his whole sandwich making thing.
Mildly inspiring.
Yes, I recommend the Ben Settle Show, and anybody who isn't on it, that's their own loss.
Somewhat authentic.
Ben is a very distinct personality. There's no fluff. I can't stand fluff.
Syrupy sweet.
Tells it like it is, and sometimes may not be the most polite manner, shall we say.
Kind of useful.
So I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaching and masterminds, and I've learned more from Ben Settle's podcast than from any of that.
Semi-intelligent.
Ben sounds like a crazy guy at times, but he's one of the smartest individuals in marketing I've ever met.
Mostly forgettable.
He's always in the forefront of my mind.
The BenSettle.com podcast begins now.
This is Ben Settle, the BenSettle.com podcast, where we avoid controversial topics. Jonathan, we try to avoid these things. We try to bore people into buying from us like the rest of the marketing world. And, we don't talk about religion, politics, sex, or any of that stuff on the show.
You know what I hate about you, Ben? I wanted to start off whatever you said, and I wanted to say, I call BS on that. You're not from the BenSettle.com podcast. You're really from that El Bembo group. But then what you said made perfect sense.
El Bembo's Lair is becoming my second. I have people in there. That is real life for the people in there. A lot of people joke around saying, well, in real life, I say, no. This is real life. The rest of the world is the distraction. and it's all fun. But this is now an extension, a satellite of that. So the podcast audience, you're just fine. You're not missing out on anything. By the way, when you said I call BS, I'm still hoping that, and by the time this show is airing, maybe we've got this figured out, but I still hope to do that with Kevin Rogers when we were telling you about his idea of I call BS, where he sees some stupidity going on in the marketing world or the business world, and then he calls me on the phone and we just talk about it unscripted. I call BS, like he's calling bullshit on what he's saying, but he's also calling Ben Settle, which is totally the comedian mind could have figured. I could not have figured that out. Only a professional comedian like him could do it, and my hat is always tipped to the great Kevin Rogers as a result. So none of that has anything to do with what we're going to talk about today. Jonathan, last week, I didn't know what to tell people to expect this week because I really hadn't thought it through yet. Right. Because every fifth episode, I just don't do that. Whatever comes up, comes up, and so be it. But I want to talk about something. Well, first of all, there's this concept that people, if people just adopt this, what I'm going to teach in this show today, you will never really have a problem with clients or customers, toxic people in your life. And this could be relationships or family members or friends. There's something that I teach. I teach this thing in my villains book, especially about not being needy and all that. But this goes beyond that. And that's this idea of nexting people, like next. Okay? If somebody does something to you that disrespects you, you next them, i.e. you cut them out basically for the rest of your life. Now, you might want to allow them back in someday. Okay, I'm not saying you have to be completely cold-hearted, ruthless with this, but it really works. And it's not like some tactic you're doing to punish anybody. So this is what people will do. When you next somebody, the way I'm going to show everyone how to do it in this show, where you literally just cut them out of their life like they're dead to you and they don't exist anymore. They'll start throwing these shaming tactics at you like, oh, you're just being a baby and this is abusive, but ignoring me. No, it's not. It's abusive listening to these toxic people try to waste my time. And I simply cut them out. I do it on many different levels, and everybody listening to this will hopefully be doing it on all these different levels by the time I am done indoctrinating you on the idea of nexting people. So there are many ways to next, and there's many situations you should next people, but there's 5 situations in particular I want to talk about today. And the first, Jonathan, the idea of nexting flaky customers.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a wild guess here that you've had some flaky customers
in the past. Yeah, even nowadays. Yes. Yeah, I see them every once in a while.
Yeah, I still get the occasional flake lands on my shoulder like a flake of dandruff that I have to brush off. And customers. So, for example, there are people who join email players, the email players newsletter. They subscribe because they but they really shouldn't have. Like, they weren't qualified. They didn't read the sales letter. They're just in guru fanboy mode. They're in like, oh, I need a bright, shiny object mode. This sounds cool. This sounds ninja. You know, whatever. They read the bullets and all that. And they really didn't take the time to think it through, which is what I want people to do. I don't want people making these like rash decisions to subscribe. I want people to really think about it. Man, Jonathan, sometimes people will tell me, man, that sales letter headline's a little weak, because they don't understand that headline is not for cold traffic. It's for people coming from my emails already looking for email players. And another reason I keep it kind of bland is because, well, actually there's two reasons. One is that the email is the new headline as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
That's really the new headline. But that's a little too much value. I don't really like giving that kind of value away. But I had to do it for this. But the second reason is I wanted to turn the guru fanboys off. I want the people looking for sexy, the sexy corncob. What is it when one-legged sailor with corncob pipe discovers the new secret for making money? You know, all that kind of crap that they're looking for because they read a book about copywriting and suddenly they think they know what they're talking about and all this, and they just get excited. And, you know, these are the guys looking for the open loops. Ooh, it's an open loop. My God. And they get boners over it and they start like, you know, wigging out over it and they share it in all the forums. Oh, did you see this open loop, man? Oh, it's so cool. Like, these are the people I want to get rid of. I don't want them in my life, Jonathan. Okay. And then yet they still sneak in sometimes. Because I can't tell. I can't vet every single person who tries to subscribe. I do know that I have the shopping cart set to ban a lot of people.
Nice.
You know, and they can't, and a lot of them try to come back when the shopping cart's not working. I said, no, the shopping cart is doing its job. It's keeping you out, you know, and then if I'm feeling particularly generous, I'll look up their customer record and I'll see, oh, yep, this guy, here's what he did, or here's what she did. And nexting. Okay, I nexted that person. They don't get to come back. Once you've been nexted, there's no coming back.
I get it. No soup for you. That's what you're pulling.
I am pulling the soup Nazi. I am the email Nazi. I'm the newsletter Nazi. And this goes totally against what people aren't like stuck with. People are so freaking needy and like they have this like scarcity mindset where like, oh, I need all the customers. I don't want all the customers. I would rather have 400 or 500 core solid people actually implementing than 1,000 people who are just going through like it's a casino, going from one game to the next, to the next, to the next, pulling levers, losing. I don't know if you've been to any casinos, Jonathan, but I think they're very depressing places because you have a bunch of people just losing.
Yeah.
Just losing constantly. And they're addicted to losing. And it's just, I don't know. I can't go into them. I'm not a big fan of casinos. Now, I think the only time I ever went was because the ex-copywriting apprentice, when her and I were dating, she was exceptionally good at some like the video, the slot machines and all that. Like she actually could win most of the time. So she was different. But I'd go in there with her and be like, God, I'm just going to go sit in the bar, man, because this is like depressing being around all these people. But anyway, so I don't know where we're going. I'm just going on another tangent. But so if you get a flaky customer, here's the point. And a flaky customer can take many different forms, but you'll know when you're dealing with a flake. Just next them. Don't let them come back. Actually, literally ban them in your shopping cart, which most shopping carts let you do. You can ban their email address, their IP address, their credit card, their name, whatever. I do it all, so that they can't come back. And sometimes people try to sneak back, Jonathan, but I know. Oh, El Bembo, no, he knows who's been naughty and who's been nice, and so be it. All right, so the next group of people that you should not fear nexting is flaky clients. And I'll tell you, Jonathan, one of the reasons I don't do client work is because I don't like flaky people in general. Most clients, I'm going to say most clients, but a lot of people out there who are putting themselves out there as clients are very flaky people. And I'm not talking about the serious ones. So anyone listening to this, okay, if you work for Agora Financial, I'm not talking about you, okay? I'm not talking about anyone like has prestige and a track record and all that. There are some really good clients out there. I'm talking about these ones who go on Facebook saying, I need a sales letter done. Don't go to freaking... I got to slow down here, Jonathan.
Blood vessel.
This is one of these things that just pisses me off. And people fall for this crap. Someone goes onto a Facebook group, says, I need a sales letter written for $500. Blah, like they're doing everyone some favor. And those tend to be the flakiest of all flakes. Again, going back to my ex-copywriting apprentice days when I actually had her as an apprentice, when I was helping her get clients, I remember that there would be people trying to, she'd be going on Facebook and I said, just stay away from these people. I will find you your first clients, which I did from my own list. And even some of them were kind of flaky. So imagine the Facebook thing, but you just got to next the flaky client. Don't keep chasing them down. Don't kiss their ass. Don't sit there and even give them a second chance. If they can't be where they're going to say they're going to be and do what they say they're going to do, why would you deal with them? They're probably not going to pay you. Or they're going to pull some other shenanigans. Am I, you tell me, Jonathan, am I out of line with this? I mean, you've dealt with some clients out there. You've seen what I'm talking about.
Here's what I've never told you before. If you saw the list of people that I wouldn't accept as clients at the Podcast Factory, you'd think I was an idiot because they have some big names, and it's exactly because of that shit. Because if you can't show up, if you can't do what you're going to say you're going to do, you're going to drive me crazy, and I'd rather live without you.
See, this is why you and I get along so well, I think. I think it's our mutual hatred of flaky people. I think you and I have bonded over our anguish what the flakes of the world do out there. Okay, so I do the same thing. There are certain big name people I will not associate with, and I won't, they want me to mail for them. They want to mail for me, and I say no. I don't need anyone mailing for me, but if you want to tell your list about me, you go right ahead. But I don't do like affiliate stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't want, in fact, and then I would tell them, I'd rather you not. I really don't want to be associated with you. And they go, what? And I say, because, and I'll tell them, but I always tell them why. I'll say, look, and they can tell me their side of the story. My friend Shane Hunter, I'm not going to name it, the JV partners that he was, and I know we're talking about clients, but it's JV partners anyway. He dealt with some JV people once, and they like completely dropped the ball. They disrespected his list, and then they blamed it on technology, and they never even said they never even sent an email out to say, look, we're sorry this happened, and if they did, they probably would have done one of those lame, well, the cart got overloaded with orders.
Yeah.
that stupid, the total douche canoe thing that people do out there. The car. By the way, douche canoe is not a word I made up. The very lovely taco loving, I should say, person, April Dykeman, who loves tacos, and we shared. We didn't share a taco once, but I bought her a taco once. We shared a meal in that sense, and she's one that I heard douche canoe from, and I just can't. I don't know. I think I'm going to I warned her I'm going to overuse this word. I am absolutely going to overuse it, and it'll be watered down. But she has some backup words she said that she has in the drink. So, hopefully she doesn't tell me those words because, I'll just overuse those. But anyway, these guys were like douche canoes, and they they just disrespected him, and they disrespected his list. And I'm like, and him and I had to talk about that, and we both agreed, just cut these guys out. Don't even give them a second chance. And luckily Shane was smart enough. He didn't it wasn't his cream. It wasn't his buyer's list that they did this to. It was like some list of old names that haven't opened emails and all. Shane's very, very shrewd about kind of stuff like that. And I suspect he knew there was some hijinks going on before it even happened. But this is why I don't do joint ventures with very few people, Jonathan, do I do a joint venture with. I mean, very few. I mean, I can count them on one hand how many people I would actually promote their stuff. And it's a very small list. And it's not like there aren't other good things out there to do it. But I have learned over the years, less is better when it comes to that. And you're better off just selling your own stuff anyway. So flaky clients are easily dealt with by just not relying on client work. That's like the easiest way to go about it. So enough said on flaky customers and clients. There's a lot of dandruff out there, Jonathan. And unfortunately,
brush your shoulders off. If
you don't have your head and shoulders out using it every day, you're going to get dandruff in this business. So
nice.
And that might be the most clever analogy I've ever come up with. But all right, so the next group, now this has nothing to do with business, is flaky friends. Now, when I say the word, and I have to say something here, Jonathan, because people, I have lots of friends that are a little flaky, but I can't just next them. Okay, I'm not talking about friend the way the 99% of the people think of friend. I don't think people should have more than just a handful of friends in their life. That they would a friend is someone who would have your back. If shit was going down and you had nobody else to rely on, and maybe they even live 2,000 miles away from you, they will somehow help you out of that bind. That's what I'm talking about. We're all going to have a lot of acquaintances. We're going to have lots of pals and buddies and all that. And that's fine. You don't have those people in your life. But I'm talking about friends, someone that you would trust with your life. If they ever flake out with you, you have to downgrade them to something else. You cannot consider them a friend. Because a true friend isn't going to flake on you. Not maliciously, at least, and not unless something happens. Like, for example, Jonathan, you were 3 minutes late today to our podcast session.
Flaky as fuck, boy.
I didn't disown you as a friend, because that's different. You weren't flaking out. You were on the phone with the credit card company because somebody stole your credit card numbers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about flaky friends. Okay, a friend who was supposed to be there when they said they would be, it was a big deal, and they forgot because they were out screwing around or whatever. You got to downgrade them to something. They're not a friend. That's not a true friend. That could be a buddy, a pal, yes, an acquaintance, whatever. But flaky friends, they have to go. They need to be downgraded and cut out. Maybe even cut them out of your life at that point. Do you really want someone who would stab you in the back as a friend? I would hope not.
Fuck no.
I would hope not. The next, now we're on number 4 here, the flaky family members. Now, this is hard for people to do because blood's thicker than water. All right, I get that. I'll give an example out of my own life. When I was growing up, all the way through my early 20s, I had a certain family member who I used to lift weights with, and he was my little league coach. I considered him a really good friend, not just an uncle. But him and my aunt like kind of disowned me, like when my grandma died. They like disowned not just me, but my whole that whole side of the family. It's like they just kind of like now they're kids, my cousins. I still talk to them and I get along with them fine, but I can never figure out why these, it's like, what the hell did I ever do? There are people that they had disagreements with in the family. I get that. But many times I tried to hold the olive branch out, Jonathan, and many times I tried to reach out and shake a hand. And many times I pulled a bloody stump back.
Ouch.
Okay. I.e. they just flaking out on me. So they are now relegated to being nothing to me anymore. Not because I don't want them to be, but because they've been flaking out on me and I never got an explanation why. And, why would I even care anymore at this point? I don't. I did for a long time, but now I've just nexted them. So, I like their kids. My 2 cousins are great and they won't get in the middle of it. So whatever the hell I did, Jonathan, believe me, I know there are plenty of reasons to hate me, but at least have it be one of the legitimate ones. So flaky family's got to go. All right. Flaky family's got to go. And finally, I like to bring things back to the relationships and the dating world. Flaky girls or flaky guys. If you're a girl, if you're dealing with a flaky guy, or if you're a guy dealing with a flaky girl, why would you even waste your time? Now, we could talk about, this could be a whole show in itself, Jonathan. It really could. But here's my advice to the guys. Now, I'm not going to give advice to the girls because they never listen to me anyway. But I'm going to give advice to the guys because a lot of the guys of this show do listen to me. And they show results and they're happier people as a result. And that is, if you're trying to date a girl or whatever, and they don't look and they don't seem interested in you at all, next. Okay, if they're playing a game, next. If they don't give you the time of day, next, because they're playing some inane game where they think they have to do all that, next. Next. You don't give anybody your time and your attention who doesn't deserve it. You don't chase and you don't pursue anything that doesn't at least show some interest. Okay, now you have to do your job too and make your interest very blatant. So it's not all on them. But if you've done that, if you've stood there and you've made it very clear to them that if it was up to you, you'd be together, okay, and they start playing that little game, well, I better play hard to get and all that, just next them. If you're with the girl already, and Jonathan, this is a lesson I wish I had applied earlier in my life. If you're with a girl and she gets too dramatic with you, you next her. Now, that kind of next is different if you're actually with the girl and, married or, in a relationship. What I'm talking about is if you're just in a relationship with a girl and she gets dramatic with you and starts acting like weird and, just like ruining the freaking time you're having because she's being a girl, you simply tell her this. And I learned this from this guy who calls himself Black Dragon, by the way, if you want to look him up on the internet. He's got a very interesting blog. I don't know what the URL is, but I like reading his stuff. And I thought this was brilliant. I thought, God, there were some people I could have done this with, but I never did. But you just say, look, I don't do drama. And then very calmly and coldly, you give no emotion back. You say, I don't do drama. And you walk away and you do not have any contact with that girl for at least 3 days. At all. I don't care what they say. I don't care how many times they text you or call you. You don't do anything. You just cut them completely out for 3 days. If they're a repeat offender, you cut them out for a week. And if you're a repeat offender after that, you might want to just cut them out completely. And here's the magic what will happen. They will freak out, rightfully so. And you got to find something better to do with your time so you don't care. You got to work on your mission. It's more important than dealing with the drama queen. And chances are, and I've only been able to do this a couple times since I learned it. I need to find some more dramatic girls to date, Jonathan, so I can practice this more. But it does work. And here's the weird thing that happens. When they do come back, you just act like nothing ever happened. You just call them up or whatever and say, hey, let's get together. And they will they know what they did wrong. You don't have to say it. You don't need to explain it. Don't lecture. Don't do any of that. You can't even bring it up after that. Okay. You just say, look, I was busy working on stuff, and you let them draw their own conclusions, and you will be amazed at the compliance you will get.
Wow.
So yeah, compliance. I don't know. And in a marriage, Jonathan, I don't know how you really do that. I mean, I have no idea how you'd apply it to that. When you actually have to live with somebody, that's a little bit harder, but If you're not married, trust me on this, it works. You can't do it maliciously, though. This is the thing. People listen, you cannot do it maliciously because you're trying to be mean or as a tactic. It's simply like, this person's being a drama queen. This is ridiculous. I got better things to do with my time right now. I got to work on my mission, and I'm dealing with this lunatic right now. No, I'm going to just calmly leave. I'm not going to insult her or anything. If I have to drive her home, I'll drive her home. There will be nothing said in the car, and she will be mad at you. She will get angry at you. She will call you names. She will accuse you of being a baby and all that. Doesn't matter. Just ignore for at least 3 days and watch what happens. John, I think that's a pretty good way to leave this episode.
Yeah.
Now you think that's a pretty good piece of information. So next week, we are going to reach into my sack of email players rules. And we're going to do another 7 email players rules. That's next week.
All right. Looking forward to it. So another bensettle.com podcast is in the can. See you guys next time.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To get your hands on a free issue of Ben Settle's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, simply go to www.bensettle.com.
This is the podcastfactory.com.